All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Word with Ty Brownlow. I am your host, Ty Brownlow. Remember, no one is worthless, no story is worthless. Today, ladies and gentlemen, do I have a very, very special guest for you. Please put your hands together for Miss Javon Harley.
Well, hello, and thank you so much for having me today.
Oh, you are most welcome. You are most welcome. I like what we're talking about today. Today, we're talking about travel, and not only travel, but Black travel. Like as we were speaking before we got started in the recording, we as African Americans, we are traveling somewhere everywhere now. Where not as before, where it was the traditional trip to Mexico or taking a trip up to Toronto in Canada for, Carnival, I believe it is, or what have you. Now we're really going across international waters. We're going to other countries, and we're really doing it. So I'm very honored to have you on here, and let's just get started.
Absolutely. Well, and to your point, we've been in business for more than 23 years. And so we've been, Black folks have been traveling for quite a while.
Okay. All right now. All right. Okay. Well, no. Well, all right. So as you just said, you've been in business for over 20 years, and your business is Advantage International. All right. And it is a LLC, but you all are sponsoring a trip to Dubai. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But can you talk a little bit more about the trip itself?
Oh, absolutely. We want to make sure that we include those iconic things that you must do and the things you must see when you go to Dubai. But we also like to have and put in those cultural connections and those immersive cultural experiences as well. So talking about the iconic things that Dubai is known for. Of course, you have the tallest building in the world, the Burj Khalifa, and we're certainly going to go there. The desert safari, which is kind of unique to the United Arab Emirates and Dubai. So at sunset, you go on a fabulous SUV or four-wheel drive vehicles, and you ride the sand dunes. Real sand. Sometimes we've gotten stuck. So it tells you that is a real experience. And then we camp outside to really mimic that Bedouin lifestyle. Because before the United Arab Emirates became the country that we know it to be, before they discovered oil, they were several different countries of Bedouins. And then they came together to form the United Arab Emirates. And there are 7 emirates or 7 states that came together to form the country. So, that Bedouin kind of lifestyle, but we do things in style. So as the sun is setting and after our sand dune riding, like riding the waves, we have a nice champagne toast before we get settled in for the evening. So those kind of wonderful things. And then also right now, what's happening is the World Expo or the Dubai Expo. So every 5 years, there's the World Expo, similar to the Olympics. Different countries bid on having the World Expo. It's been going on for hundreds of years. So what is happening now is that Dubai has the World Expo. And so the Dubai Expo is phenomenal. It started in October. It's going to end in March. And we have 3 trips going to Dubai that will all experience the expo.
Okay, all right. Now, so not only do you get the pleasure of like seeing, all the landmarks, but also there's a World Expo there as well?
Yes, as I said, it started in October 1st, and it's going to go through the end of March. And it's a world display, and their theme, because each country, when they host it, will have a theme, is technology and global advancement. So very apropos for Dubai with all the modern marvels of the world. But then some of those cultural things that we do, we meet with the Arab culturalists so that we understand the Arab and the Emirati culture, because understanding, we may think of the Middle East as one, but there are many different countries. And so what we may attribute to a religious aspect, maybe a cultural aspect for a particular country. So we connect with the Arab culturalist, and he breaks it all down for us. We also do some wonderful shopping at the souks. So they have, of course, the fabulous malls, the mall, Dubai Mall. We have Ski Dubai. You know, these malls are fabulous. They have everything. But we also go to the traditional souks where you can buy gold and spices. One of my favorite things to do, and if there's anybody out here who cooks, you know exactly the value of buying these spices wholesale. They're so much less expensive there. You can buy in bulk and bring them back home. But as I said, gold, silver, clothing, spices. So we do all of those things. And then, of course, we go out one night on the Dubai Creek and see the city from the water.
Okay, so now let me ask, like when is all this taking place? Like, what are the dates? That this is taking place?
Well, our first trip for Dubai this year is going to kick off with Michael Bason's Travel Club, and we'll talk about that a little bit later and how we connected with him. That's going to be February 15th through the 22nd. And then we have our private group tour that's going February 23rd through March 2nd with an extension to the Maldives. So that one is fabulous as well. And then we also partnered with Afrozones, and the Afrozone Dubai Sound Off March 3rd through the 9th.
Okay, all right. Distinguished over here, people. Okay, look, we're talking about culture, all right? Travel culture, world culture, all right? And we're getting all that today, all of that today. Now, you just spoke on something, involving Michael Baisden and, your travel partnership with him. Can you tell us how all that became, how all that, came about, and, what's his involvement in all of this as well?
Absolutely. We're very excited about our relationship with Michael Baisden and the onset of his travel club, the Michael Baisden Travel Club. So we first met Michael Baisden in 2011 when we were working with ABC Radio Network. They were doing the ABC Island Jam in Jamaica, taking over practically the whole island, but had about 3 different resorts and different radio personalities, and Michael Baisden was one of them. So that's when we made our first connection. And then he reached out to us recently and said, I've continued to follow you guys, and I love the things that you're doing. And as he has kind of come away from radio and gone online, he has now have a full online platform that he's done extremely well with. He didn't miss a beat. And he says, I want to start the Michael Baisden Travel Club, and I'd like to work with Advantage International. And that's how it started. And we started with Dubai. Dubai is the first Michael Baisden Travel Club trip, but he's already planning to take the club to Paris, to France, and to Egypt in the latter parts of 2022 and 2023.
Okay, all right. Now that's media personality and best-selling author Michael Baisden. Now, okay, all right. So, people, all right, let's put 2 and 2 together now. Okay, so now, first and foremost, I think that's wonderful, and the fact that he actually reached out, to come back and like, hey, I want to do I want to do a travel, group or what have you, and have you all partner with him, and to have, this experience, wonderful, top notch. And as you spoke about all the things to do over in Dubai or what have you, as we talked about before, there's dinner in the sky, there's the ATVs, there's shopping, there's the World Expo. And, on top of that, you also get to learn more about, the country itself, some, religious and cultural aspects. Yeah, wonderful. But now let's talk a little bit about, Black travel culture and the importance of it, because as you said, you spent over 20 years in this, and it just, for those who may not know, or for those who may, be new to this, a place like Dubai, oh God, like I've never seen that. And as we spoke before, normally when I think about taking trips outside the United States, it's usually either to Mexico or to Canada, so to, expand that region, I believe, man, as I said, is wonderful. But talk to us a little bit more about the importance of Black travel culture.
The importance is huge, because first there has to be the understanding of Black travel culture, and then there has to be the recognition of Black travel culture. Those are the two things. And so defining what it is, what does that mean? And understanding that it's varied and it's diverse. So the worst thing that can happen, and what we don't want anyone to do, is to put us in one box, because we are varied and we are diverse. For example, my company, Advantage International, we focus on upscale African American travel for the mature traveler. So we're looking at Gen X's and baby boomers. And no, we're not going after the millennials. That's not what our trips are. There's family travel. That's not what we do. There's FIT, or individual travel. That's not what we do. So we have to understand that we are as varied and diverse as any other group of people when it comes to travel. And understanding and recognizing that opens up the world. When, as you stated earlier, we started our business in '98. So that means that this year, actually, we're going on 24 years. And in March of this year, it'll be 24 years. But prior to starting Advantage, I worked for an airline consolidator and a wholesaler. I was, when I first started with the company, the only Black person working for the company. I then became the general manager. And of course, we brought more Black people on board. But in what I noticed in the industry as a whole is there was a lack of representation for not only Black people to work in the industry, but for the Black traveler as well. And the thought, when you talk to tourism boards, airlines, hoteliers, the suppliers of travel, they too put Black travelers in one box, only going to the Caribbean, only going to the South, and only going on cruises. And so it became very difficult with advertising dollars and really reaching tourism boards to really focus and see the value on the Black traveler. And so that's really where I focused my efforts when I started Advantage International. Fortunately, he's not on the show today, but my husband, Gene Harley, worked for radio. And so I really wanted to understand radio and media as it related to travel. So he was very instrumental in helping me with that and understanding media buys. And that's where we realized that across the board, in most cases, there's that 10%, African American or minority buy that agencies put aside. And then everybody's fighting for that little 10%. However, we know in radio, we know across many boards that the Black traveler, along with the Black consumer, spends billions of dollars annually, not just in buying cars or homes, but in travel as well. And so that's where we focused our efforts. And it was very difficult starting out because most of my clients were media clients. It was very difficult to get agencies and tourism boards to feel that there was a value in spending money to promote something that was targeting the African American traveler. And through those efforts and through some early successes is where we got the attention. All right. So I remember one of my first ones putting together a program for South Africa, and the airline representative literally said this to me. Well, this is a long haul destination. It's not like the Caribbean or a cruise. And so it can be kind of expensive. And so what I did with her is said, okay, what are you doing now? Who are you targeting now? Who is your ideal traveler? And so she gave me those specs. Someone who spends $2,500 on the ground, somebody who looks for culture, someone who is staying at a certain type of hotel. So everything that she gave me, I wrote down, and then I said, you've just described my traveler. You've just described my customer, my client. So now I really need to understand why you can't support this program. And so that was actually the start of a budding relationship we have. We still have a relationship with South African Airways and the destination South Africa. And this was 23 years ago. But again, we have to make people realize and understand the value that we bring to the table. And as a matter of fact, my travelers many times have shut down jewelry stores, or I've gotten them to open up for us after hours because of what people spend. When someone says, well, what do they spend on the ground? I find that the African American traveler actually spends more on the ground or at a destination supporting local businesses than your general market traveler. So we have to educate and inform ourselves about that. But again, going back to the answer to your question of understanding and recognizing, those are the two key proponents of or understanding the Black traveler.
Well, look, let me just say, you have definitely taken me to school on a number of aspects when it comes to travel, because as you said before, sometimes I always talk about how people see us versus how we see ourselves. And as you said, 23, 24 years ago, they put us in this box. Well, hey, it's the Caribbean, it's this, it's that, is, what have you. And we don't know if people are going to spend. But as we've been sitting here and talking, upscale is, the word that just rings out to me, upscale, upscale, upscale. And just, as you said before, culture, spending the money, contributing to the economy of, these countries or what have you. And really debunking the myth that we're not going to spend any money when it's an actual fact that we're one of like we spend in billions, every year just here in this country alone. So just imagine what we will do, traveling internationally. And, especially as you say, like gold, fabrics, spices, things of that nature that you normally can't get here. I can tell you, just personally, I know people that are willing to spend like the $2,500 and more, just on those items alone, because they know they can't get it here. And, sometimes we like to have those mementos that remind us of, a special time or a special trip that we have taken. And if that's culturally, in Dubai or Africa or South Africa or what have you, then yeah, I want that memento. I want those spices. I want, these gold earrings or gold necklaces or these figures or what have you, or these fabrics, that, every time I take a look at that puts me in a special place. That reminds me, hey, you know what? We had such a great time there. It was a wonderful experience. I want to go back and I want to take more, people with me. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And talking about the diversity, we spoke about the age demographic,
Yes.
We spoke about the interests and the economics, of it. Again, there's the budget traveler, there's the upscale traveler, and then there's the ultra luxury traveler. So again, we fall into all of those boxes. The other thing that we decided that we wanted to do when we started the company is to focus on group travel because of the camaraderie, because of the safety and comfort in a group. When I was traveling by myself before I started my company, I was often the only Black person, or we were the only Black couple in a group when we traveled. We'd sign up for a group. And I felt like I was in a fishbowl. I just felt like everyone's eyes were on me. And then I'd get these questions that were just prodding, basically making me feel like, why are you here? Who are you? What do you do? Basically trying to really size you up. And I'm trying to enjoy the destination like everyone else. And I didn't really feel like I had the luxury of doing that because I wasn't amongst my peers in that sense. So I really decided two things when I started my business. One is that I wanted to go after African Americans. That was going to be my client base. And two, group travel. Because when I would, again, travel on my own, and friends and relatives I would talk to about my trips after I came back, so many of them said, I would love to do that. They had the money to do it, but there was a fear for some. Now, today, many people go off and travel on their own. There are far more mini wanderlusters out there than there were before. But there was a time where, people really felt like, one, I didn't know where to start or where to go or how to put it all together. And I'm a little fearful of doing it alone. And so that's where I came up with the idea, let's focus on group travel. But I definitely wanted to focus on the African American traveler. And something that happened to me recently, I was getting ready to say this year, forgetting that we're already in 2022. So this happened in 2021. But just a couple of months ago, I was solicited by this company to provide their services to me their whole thing was take the load off of you with social media, kind of like having a personal assistant and that kind of thing. And so as she was asking me these questions about my business and asking who we are and what we do, I always lead with, we're a special interest group travel company catering to upscale African American travelers. And her immediate response, which lost the business for her, was do you still want to do that? As if, why would I abandon a customer who's been with me has kept me in business for 24 years? But again, this perception of it is just mind boggling. And so, when you think of all of these things and you put them together, it all makes sense why group travel is very lucrative and it's very prominent for the Black traveler.
Hey, I love it. I love it. I am for it, and as we talked about luxury, I know I like luxury. I love luxury, upscale. Who doesn't want to ride and fly in style or, arrive in style or, rest in style or rest in luxury, to have, because this is monumental. These are things that you remember, for years and years and years. And as you said, when you took your trips and you would come back and talk to your friends who had the money to go, but maybe just a little fearful or what have you, once you paint a certain picture for them, then the light bulb goes off. Oh yeah, you know what? I would love to do that. So I've said it before and I'm gonna say it again. I think it's wonderful what you do, because you're like debunking all these myths that others may have about us. And, you're, debunking all those fears that sometimes we as African Americans may have while traveling, and I see you have your logo back there, Traveling While Black. We're going to talk a lot about that in a second, but, that's just wonderful because we need that. And sometimes, we need those trailblazers such as yourself to go out there and, explore and come back to let us know, hey, you know what? There really is, something for us out here and we can go have it, Let's set this up. Let's do this. Let's come up with this concept and we can go explore those things as well. So hats off to you. All right. Hats off to Advantage International now. All right. Now, as with anything, there are tips when you're traveling There are also safety tips to, keep into account, especially, this day and age with the variants out there, coronavirus, what have you. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Sure. Well, let's just start with some of the basic travel tips. And there's some, the list is very, very long, but let me just narrow it down to my top 10. Travel with a credit card that you have just for emergencies, not the one you're going to do all the shopping on, but one that has some money on it. And just in case something happens, you have a go-to credit card. You don't have to worry about spending limits. So make sure that you have one that you play with and one that's just for emergencies. Travel insurance is extremely important, and especially today. So I'll circle back to that when we talk about travel tips for the in this time of COVID. Packing light and having a plan when you pack. One thing that comes with the Black traveler is overpacking. I'm always fighting with that. And I have a few tips with the packing. One is have a plan and have a color palette. And then also, there's a quote that I always like to say: lay out all your clothes, lay out all your money, take half the clothes and twice the money, right?
Wise words.
Make sure you have a rewards card, an airline or travel or cash reward credit card, so that everything you're doing in your day-to-day life and during your travels are going to pay you back and help you travel even more and more economically as well. Arrive at the airport 2 hours early for a domestic flight and 3 hours for international. I know a lot of you are saying, what? But yes, believe me, there's some stories behind that you wish you had it if you have it. You know what I mean? Get TSA pre-check or clear or both, and global entry. So especially if you're traveling internationally, this will just help you get through security faster. It'll also help you get back into the country faster. Universal travel adapter, especially if you're traveling internationally. But even if you're traveling domestically, because the universal one is one piece. And so it has all these different plugs to fit most outlets around the world. But make sure there's one with at least 4 USB ports. And the reason I say for domestic as well is that domestically, if you've ever been in a hotel hunting for an outlet, you know what I mean. I don't know why they have so few outlets in the hotels, or it's all the way in in the top corner of a wall. You're like, why is it there? You're trying to figure all these things out. But having that adapter can help you, and those multiple plugs help you domestically and especially internationally. Store your documents electronically. Print out your copies too, but make sure you have them on your mobile device and have them at hand. More and more as I'm traveling, countries are even asking for you to show different things on your phone, or on your mobile device. So that's very important. A scarf is a travel accessory must-have, even for guys. Definitely for women, but even for guys, to cover up, for warmth, for style. Believe me, pack a scarf. It'll come in handy at least once or twice during your trip. Your carry-on bag. Now, if you're going to check a bag and you have a carry-on bag, make sure you pack one full outfit and your toiletry bag in that carry-on bag in case your check bag does not arrive with you. That way you still have something, and it'll buy you a little bit of time as the airline locates your bag. It's happened to me before, and I was so happy that I had when I say complete change of outfit, don't forget those undergarments. Make sure you have those as well. And then finally, having a traveler's checklist. And that will be all encompassing, just so that you have a reminder of everything that you need to do and a document that you can work from. So those are my standard top 10 travel tips.
Okay. Look, let me just say, you have definitely opened my eyes to a whole new life now. Now, when it comes to the plugs and things of that nature, carrying adapters, yes, you are spot on, spot on, spot on. Even, hey, I just came from Vegas. I'm wearing a t-shirt, but I just came from Vegas. We spent, my wife and I spent some days up in the MGM Grand, and we were up in there looking for the plugs to plug up our devices or what have you. And there's just one plug all the way down on the corner of the wall that, I can't even rest to, do things. But I looked at the clock, and of course, what's located in the clock? A USB port,
Yeah.
So, go figure. But yes, yeah. I really do appreciate, those tips. And the credit card tip, I think that is key because, for some of us who are not, used to traveling as much, we can and we normally do put all on one card. And that is our main card. And that is the card that we spend from. But, as you said, something could happen, and, you just may be in need of something. And if you can't find that card or that card comes up missing, now what do you? So you're just stuck here and your trip may not be as good as it once, could have been. But I like those tips as well. And the scarf tip with the fashion. So yeah. I
never leave home without my scarf. On the plane, it serves as a blanket if it's large enough. And it's amazing how it can change up an outfit and stretch those outfits for you for the days. And that helps you pack light as well.
Okay. All right. Okay. So people, look, everyone out there listening, we're talking to a 20 plus year pro here. All right. She knows what she speaks of. Okay. So please.
Now you were talking about those travel safety tips during the pandemic.
Yes, talk to me.
So to add on to everything else we just talked about, and I don't know what side of the coin you're on, but my recommendation is to get vaccinated and to get boosted. Here's why. If you want to travel, it's really heading the direction that most countries are going to require that you're vaccinated. And what I'm seeing right now are countries putting expiration dates on those vaccinations. So if your vaccination is more than 6 months old, then they might not consider you fully vaccinated anymore. So now you have the booster, and so they're factoring that in as well. So you definitely want to consider that for international travel, or just go places that don't require that now. But more and more places are requiring that you are vaccinated, otherwise they won't accept you as a traveler. Whether or not that will change, I don't know, because before the pandemic, there was only one vaccination that was required, and that was only required for some countries, and that was the yellow fever vaccination. But now this is becoming not required across the board, but it is becoming a requirement for some countries. Ditch the cloth mask. Now, they're saying if you can blow out a flame with your mask on, that mask is not protecting you. And I can tell you that most cloth masks will allow you to blow out that flame. You really should travel with an N95 or medical mask. And you might even want to double up on that medical mask, especially now with the Omicron variant, which is proving to be more transmissible. So again, to do the test, and taking disposable masks, I would say 2 to 3 per day, because you don't want to keep the same disposable mask on all day. You're taking it on, taking it off. It's becoming contaminated, right? So you want to have 2 to 3 per day disposable masks that you take with you. Back to one of my other points, travel insurance, even more important now. And here's a tip with travel insurance, because for some people, especially someone who's older and a more expensive package price, your travel insurance is going to be more expensive. You can expect to pay anywhere from 6 to 7% of your package price for the insurance. And that goes up the older you are, just like health insurance, right? So one tip that I give is that, for example, for someone like myself, I travel 2/3 of the year. I buy annual travel insurance. And that way I'm always protected baseline. And then depending on the trip that I take, I may buy extra insurance to supplement the cost factor for that. But at least you then get coverage. Let's say if you forget, you have at least that medical coverage, which is very important. So because of COVID, you really do need to have travel insurance. Always think of what happens if I contract COVID. What happens if I can't produce that negative test and I'm going to have to quarantine and stay in the country for 2 weeks? These are the things that you need to consider and why travel insurance is so important. Register with STEP, and STEP is an acronym for Smart Traveler Enrollment Program. It is sponsored by the U.S. State Department, and it is a support and arm for you when you're traveling internationally. I register all my groups with STEP, and I register with STEP every time I travel internationally. And then that way, if something happens at the destination, when you register for STEP, they're going to send you email alerts of what's happening at the destination even before you travel. But if any emergencies, any major things happen at the destination, even if you need assistance, they are someone that you can go to. They are not there to support you financially, but resources they are there to help you with. Also, if something happens and you're not contactable in the country and your family members are trying to reach you, they can go through the State Department, and because you've registered with them, they know your whereabouts and they can help them contact you. Identify the COVID protocols, not just the requirements to get there, but what are the protocols in the event you contract COVID? You want to know, how are they going to handle you? What do you have to do? Where are you going to stay? All of these, where are you going to get tested? All of these things that you need to know about COVID. So really go to the country's health page, their tourism or their embassy page, and they can give you all of this information. Just some basic things you want to travel with. Of course, your hand sanitizer, your sanitizing wipes, and bring gloves with you. Not that you're wearing gloves every day, but in the event you need let's say you're out and the area doesn't look too sanitizing. You want to wear those gloves. One of the things I say, for example, even if you're doing a road trip here in the United States and you stop at the gas station, you may want to use those gloves to pump your gas. So think in those terms. So again, anything disposable you want to have extras of, because once you use it, you throw it away. We have this habit of, well, it still looks good, let me use it again, but it's disposable for a reason, because you're supposed to dispose of it. Doctors, when they come into the office to see you, they put on a new pair of gloves, and before they leave, they throw those out so that when they go to the next patient, they put on a brand new set of gloves. Same principle, right? Have an emergency contact person. That's very crucial. Someone who's not traveling with you, so that if you need to contact someone to handle your affairs for you while you're gone, in the event you're not able to get back, or to help you should you have an emergency while you're there, that's somebody, a trusted person. We're talking about a spouse or children, adult children, of course, parents, somebody that you can really trust to handle your affairs while you're gone. But let them know that you're identifying them. Don't just pick someone and don't let them know that you are my emergency contact person, because you want to let them know where you're going. You want to give them a copy of your itinerary. And so you want to give them some important information as well. And then just regular and general travel tips, going back to that traveler's checklist and adding these things to it.
Okay, all right. Hey, look here, keeping us abreast of the situation. And as you said, well, hey, very key, cloth mask, people. Yes, I know they're easier to breathe in or what have you, but as our travel expert just said, N95 or the actual medical mask itself, very key, especially we're talking international travel. We don't really know what's going on. And as you're saying, to go back, just a second ago with the insurance, that reminds me of, I don't know if it was last year or the year before last, with the Carnival cruise. And I know a lot of people got sick on the cruise, and like a lot of people had to stay, on that ship for, I want to say, maybe an extra 10 to 15 days, because that's when COVID was like new and no one really knew how to handle that. So
some a couple of months were on there.
Yeah, some were on there for a couple of months. Like I want to say 2, 3 months or something like that. Yeah. So as soon as you said that, it pretty much put me in the mindset of that. So
yeah.
Hey.
Well, and I'll tell you, a story. I mean, I always have an anecdote, but we had a program to Fiji in early 2020 before the world shut down. And one of our travelers had an accident on one of the remote islands that we went to. We were on a hike and she fell, and freak accident, she fell on a broken branch, which really pierced her leg. And she needed severe medical attention that they didn't have any facilities on that island. And another island we took her to by boat, they just had a clinic. It wasn't a clinic like you and I know here. So she had to go to the mainland. And the only way to get her there from where we were was by either helicopter or small plane. And that cost like $30,000. She had travel insurance, so she took care of that. She was able to put it on a credit card, going back to the credit card tip, and then she was reimbursed for that because she had travel insurance. So medevac, make sure your travel insurance has medevac. I don't know if you recall a few years back when this gentleman went to Dominican Republic, and he became very ill, and Delta Airlines would not let him fly. He was too sick to fly. And they made that determination because of his illness. And, they didn't think he could make the flight. So they denied him boarding, and he did not have insurance and could not afford medical evacuation. And unfortunately, he perished in Dominican Republic. So many people I talk to don't want to spend the $200 to $300 for travel insurance. If there's a death in the family, if someone passes away at the destination and you need to repatriate that body, all of these are just like homeowners insurance or car insurance. You have it for the unexpected. And sometimes those unexpected occurrences can be quite costly. Mm-hmm. So you definitely want to consider that.
Hey, look, like I said, I am learning. People, look, spend the extra, because you just never know when it comes in handy. And I would rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
Absolutely.
There it is, people. There it is. Now, okay, we've talked about traveling to different countries, seeing these, exotic, like buildings and going to the shops and spending time with all these different cultures. But understanding different cultures while we're traveling, why is that important?
Well, it's important to make us better people. And I'm going to read this here because it's a quote that I love, but I don't want to I never want to mess it up. But it's a quote by Maya Angelou that says, "Perhaps travel cannot prevent bigotry, but by demonstrating that all peoples cry, laugh, eat, worry, and die, it can introduce the idea that if we try to understand each other, we may even become friends." And that's pretty much it in a nutshell, so that you understand the culture that you're visiting, and maybe leave that bigotry at home. Don't take it with you. Go with an open mind, and go with the aspect, that you're traveling to learn. Traveling is learning. That you're traveling to introduce yourself to a new culture and to introduce that culture to you and your culture. It's an exchange.
Okay. All right. Hey, I like it. I love it. And, as you said, to learn more. And as you said, you never know. You you can make a friend, different culture, learn a little bit more about their culture. They can learn a little bit more about yours because, sometimes, the things we see on TV or what the media shows us in our minds, that's how we may think, a certain place is or what have you. So to actually be there, to actually, dip your foot in the water, as they said, to like experience everything, I believe is key. And, learn something new every single day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you want to approach it as an inclusive experience. So it's not just you going there to learn their culture, you're sharing of yourself as well. So anytime you have a cultural experience, you want to make sure that you're prepared to share of yourself. And make it, you don't want to be the spectator. You want to be a participant in that cultural experience. But you also want to do your research because you don't want to offend anyone. You want to know the do's and don'ts in advance, especially if you're putting yourself in an intimate setting, a one-on-one setting or in somebody's home, because we've done home hosted dinners before too. And these are some of the things that people talk about the most. These are some of the most memorable experiences. Visiting someone's home, sitting around the table. Food is a big aspect of culture, isn't it? So it's how we kind of learn. Is it a spicy culture? Is it a bland culture? So we get to learn in that aspect. But just as you said, we don't want to make those judgments. We don't like when people make those judgments about us either. So that's why we should be more sensitive to that. But when in doubt, take the person's lead. If you're not sure of what to do, just kind of wait and ask. Just try to see what they do. Are they going to reach out their hand and shake your hand, or are they going to bow? Are they going to kiss you on the cheek? So kind of wait and take their lead on the situation. But don't be afraid to ask questions, especially if you're there. People know if you're there genuinely. And you really want to know. People really want to share their culture with you. That's what I find, is that people really want to share who they are and what they do and how they live with you.
Okay. All right. Okay. So now, Ms. Javon Harley, if people want to learn more, get in contact with you, learn more about Advantage International, how can people get in contact with you, either social media or website, what have you?
Well, absolutely. Website is probably the best place to go because from there you can connect with us in many different ways. So advantage-intl.com. Again, that's advantage-intl.com. And as you noted, you will see Traveling While Black on there, which is our marketing brand. Because Traveling While Black is how we visit the world and how the world sees us. So it's our introduction to the world and how we travel. Because, we have some cultural differences too. We're American. We're African American, so we have our own unique culture too. But those Traveling While Black experiences can be very interesting, and then how some of our uncles and aunties are too. So we can't leave them out. So we travel with all of that, right? And I have a radio show as well, Traveling Culturati. But again, because I love those cultural immersive experiences. So again, you can access all of that on advantage-intl.com.
I'm telling you, ladies and gentlemen, go on to the website. I've been on the website, tons of great stuff on there. Traveling While Black, I looked under there and she is correct. Okay. Like, you will find some very interesting things. You're going to hear stories. You're going to see things in a totally different light than what you have previously thought before. So please take the time out, visit the website. All right. So now, Ms. Javon Harley, we've come to the last question, the question that my show is known for, so I have to present it to you. Ms. Javon Harley, what is the one word that best describes you and why?
Traveler. because I think it's all encompassing. It really describes not only what I love to do, my passion, that I have that wanderlust, but it also speaks to how I came to be who I am. All the different cultures that I've experienced around the world have developed and shaped my personality. And the things, it has exposed me to the things that I love to do. So yeah, I thought long and hard about that. But that, I think, really does describe me, and not just in the act or function of it itself, but in everything that it has brought to me.
Hey, all right. Hey, look, distinguished, cultural, whatever else you want to put in there, traveler. Okay, look here, people. Luxury. Okay, upscale. All right, class. All right, like these are just a few of the words I could just throw out there. Okay, but if you want the experience and if you want a memorable experience, go to the website. All right, just go to the website. There it is. And the website, one more time, is
advantage-intl.com.
advantage-intl.com. Please go to it, check it out. Ms. Javon Harley, I thank you for being my guest today on Work with Ty Brownlow. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Work with Ty Brownlow. I've been your host, of course, Ty Brownlow. Remember, no one is worthless, no story is worthless. You can find me all social media platforms at Work with Ty Brownlow, or go to my website, tybrownlow.com. Definitely get this wonderful interview, plus other great interviews. Mr. Javon Harley, thank you for blessing our presence today on this platform. We're out, people. Peace. Take it easy.